The cryptid was sick. Whenever Aiden entered the damp basement, its skin flushed a feverish, rosy hue, and a low, guttural purr vibrated from its core. Aiden ran a hand through his own damp hair, his brow furrowed with concern. He worried aloud, asking why it was always making that sound, wondering if it was hungry. His savings had been decimated, converted into mountains of calamari and high-protein fish meal, yet the creature was never sated. Finally, his bank account nearing zero, he decided the only compassionate thing left to do was to return it to the ocean. He loaded it into a transport tank in the back of his pickup. All the way to the coast, its 8 tentacles moved in a frantic, complex ballet of gestures he couldn't decipher. As they reached the cliffs overlooking the churning Pacific, it finally breached the silence between them. Its voice, a desperate, synthesized rasp, told him not to release it. It was just its breeding season. News of the Leviathan's escape from the Sterling Institute had been a low hum on internet forums for a week. People whispered theories and shared grainy satellite images. Aiden had a contact inside who confirmed the creature was like a colossal octopus, with more tentacles than one could count. Someone had asked if they were the kind with suckers. Aiden, feeling a phantom sensation on his own skin, had quickly excused himself from that conversation. He massaged his neck, the faint, circular marks a secret map of a strange affection. The Pacific Northwest rain had been relentless for days, seeping into the very bones of his old craftsman house. Everything felt slick and swollen with moisture. He took a bag of premium kibble, an expensive habit he'd picked up, and crisped it in the microwave before carrying the bowl down to the basement. The moment he unlatched the door, a single tentacle, thick as his forearm, snaked through the opening, an eager, questing limb like the nose of a dog begging for a scratch. He obliged, stroking the silken, resilient flesh. The creature's purring intensified. Even after checking the water filtration system and the saline levels in its massive custom-built tank, the rumbling continued. Aiden was convinced it was a sign of a grave illness. The creature had also become intensely possessive. Though he had only been gone for the day, it now coiled its powerful arms around his torso, pinning him against the cool glass of the tank. He grumbled about its habit of finding any available opening, his words muffled against its body. He worked to pry away one arm that was inching its way under the hem of his t-shirt. Its suckers, each a marvel of biological engineering, released his skin with a series of soft, wet pops. By the time he'd freed himself, he was breathless. The reflection in the tank showed a disheveled man. His white shirt soaked through, his dark-rimmed glasses askew on his nose, and a high flush coloring his cheeks. He straightened his glasses and tried to sound stern, telling it to behave. He had to go to the institute. In response, the creature slapped the water's surface with theatrical discontent, its tentacles weaving another frantic, untranslatable message. After it had devoured the entire bowl of kibble, Aiden turned to leave. A powerful arm shot out and circled his wrist, holding him fast. For the first time, it formed a multi-word sentence, the sound still clumsy and alien. "Don't go." The creature, like an octopus, possessed 3 hearts, 8 arms, and 9 brains. It was a cognitive marvel, but its species was known for tragically short lifespans, just long enough to mate and perish. This one was different. It was long-lived, profoundly intelligent. Director Vance of the Sterling Institute had acquired it at an astronomical cost, hoping to unlock the genetic key to immortality. Aiden had led the project for 3 years. Then, a week before their breakthrough, he had used a staged power outage as cover to set it free. Before, for all its genius, it had been an animal. Now it was speaking. The potential of it sent a tremor of pure scientific excitement through him. He met its abyssal blue eyes, his voice trembling with exhilaration. He asked if it could say more. He had named it July for the month it arrived at the lab. It made a soft cooing sound. Aiden, like you. Its skin bloomed into that same feverish pink, and it released a stream of perfect, iridescent bubbles. Two of its tentacles awkwardly formed the shape of a heart. Aiden pressed his palm to his forehead. He shouldn't have let it watch those romantic comedies. They'd clearly rotted its magnificent brain. He swapped its streaming tablet over to nature documentaries and made it to the institute just in time. He'd barely settled into his office when Leo burst in. Leo demanded to know if Aiden's paper was finished. Aiden looked at him, his composure a placid lake. He calmly asked why Leo was so concerned with his work instead of his own. Leo knew perfectly well that with the primary specimen gone, Aiden's research was at a dead end. The entire institute was now pinning its hopes on Aiden's work, he pointed out. As Leo spoke, a soft, damp tendril crept from Aiden's sleeve and delicately curled around his little finger. July. It must have miniaturized itself and slipped into his coat before he left. If it were discovered here, back in the place of its long imprisonment, the consequences would be catastrophic. Leo's tone was laced with condescension. He knew Aiden had always been fond of him. He offered a deal, suggesting that if Aiden handed over the research, he would consent to be with him. Aiden shoved his hands in his pockets, nudging the tiny July deeper into the fabric, and met Leo's gaze with weary disdain. He said it was just a matter of repaying a debt. Leo, a man of passable good looks, flashed what he imagined was a charming smile. He told Aiden not to pretend. He questioned why else Aiden would have tutored him, followed him to the same university, and then to the same institute. He reminded Aiden that he had even accepted his public confession of love years ago. Their families had been neighbors in a small coastal town. Years ago, a hurricane had triggered a massive storm surge. Aiden and his parents were swept away. He awoke 7 days later on a pile of jagged rocks, battered and broken. Leo was there, claiming to have saved him, before tearfully delivering the news that Aiden's parents were gone. Afterward, Leo's parents had handled the funeral arrangements and looked after him. Leo became the closest thing he had to family. They were inseparable. People assumed they were a couple, and even Aiden began to believe it. Until the day Leo, on a dare, had asked him out in front of the whole student union. Seeing the desperate plea in Leo's eyes, Aiden recognized the social gamble for what it was. Not wanting his friend to be humiliated, he had casually agreed. A few days later, a video surfaced. It showed Leo bragging to his friends about how the top student in their year was his personal workhorse, how he'd have Aiden warming his bed in the future. The words had soured in Aiden's stomach, and the image of Leo in his mind had curdled and spoiled completely. Leo pressed his case, insisting that he had saved Aiden's life, that Aiden must feel something for him. A tightness constricted Aiden's chest. He told Leo that any debt had been paid in full long ago. He had been the one to vouch for Leo, whose academic record alone would never have gotten him past the institute's front doors. Since they were being honest, Aiden then asked if Leo was truly the one who had saved him all those years ago. The story had never quite added up. Leo had been a scrawny, weak kid. How could he have pulled anyone from the torrent of a hurricane's surge, one of the deadliest natural disasters? And given Leo's subsequent character, an act of selfless, life-risking heroism seemed entirely implausible. Leo's eyes flickered away, a portrait of guilt. He accused Aiden of changing the subject. July, sensing the tension, had slithered out and was now draped across Aiden's chest, its tiny form hidden by his jacket. A tentacle brushed against a sensitive point, sending an unwelcome shiver through him, pulling him back from the suffocating memory. Leo was still talking, admitting he had been distant lately, spending time with Director Vance's daughter. But he promised if Aiden gave him the research, he would choose Aiden over her. He was actually trying to leverage Aiden's life's work to ingratiate himself with his potential father-in-law. A vein throbbed in Aiden's temple. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. From Leo's perspective, the light filtering through the blinds caught the sharp, clean lines of Aiden's profile. His dark eyes were large and luminous, his lips full. He was possessed of an unexpected, scholarly beauty. Leo remembered finding Aiden plain and somber back in college, and had felt a wave of revulsion after his confession had been accepted. If he'd known Aiden looked like this without the glasses, he would have been genuinely interested. He imagined Aiden would be pliant, inexperienced, easy to dominate. Lost in this fantasy, he saw Aiden's lips moving but heard nothing. Aiden raised his voice, asking if he was deaf. He then shouted, asking if Leo could hear him now if he called him a worthless parasite. Leo, still in a daze, reached out a hand. A sharp sting, and he hissed, pulling his finger back. A bead of blood welled up. When agitated, July could produce a single needle-sharp barb. Apparently, Leo's monologue had offended even the creature. Fearing Leo would see July, Aiden shoved him toward the door, declaring he had no interest in him. Leo, refusing to believe it, grabbed at Aiden's jacket. The collar ripped open, revealing the pattern of marks on his neck. Leo's face twisted in disgust. He accused Aiden of being involved with the creature, of releasing it for his own sick private use. He sneered, asking if it satisfied him. That was the breaking point. Aiden's hand flew, the slap echoing in the hallway. He retorted that it had 8 arms and Leo had 1. He told him to do the math. The office door was open. The entire floor heard. They were both summoned to Director Vance's office. Vance, usually a master of de-escalation, was furious. He banged his fist on his desk, saying he hadn't poured millions into the project for his lead scientist to be brawling in the hallway. He declared that Aiden was primarily responsible for losing the specimen and that he should be focused on rectifying his monumental failure, not on petty squabbles. Aiden lowered his gaze and agreed that he was responsible. Leo, clutching his reddening cheek, scoffed, asking how Aiden planned to take responsibility. Aiden announced he would resign, effective immediately. The office fell silent. Vance hesitated, telling him not to be rash. Aiden held most of the key patents. Finding a replacement would be nearly impossible. But Leo was ecstatic. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. He assured Vance that he could take over, that he would see the project to completion. Outside the institute, Aiden carefully retrieved the tiny July from his pocket. He had worried the return to its former prison would trigger a stress response. Instead, July waved its tentacles, its 2 blue eyes blinking, and managed a few distorted syllables. Hurt you. Eat them. Even as a terrifying leviathan, when held in the palm of a hand, it was absurdly endearing. Aiden's mood lifted, and he pressed a kiss to the top of its head. He told it eating people was illegal. A flicker of disappointment crossed July's eyes. Not long after he got home, Leo called. He smugly promised not to squander the opportunity Aiden had given him. Aiden thought the creature in his pocket had more humanity. He'd almost felt compelled to warn Leo to quit, for his parents' sake, but now he decided against it. It would be better not to delay Leo's grand destiny. Aiden, don't be mad. July pressed a tentacle to his cheek, its suckers creating a soft, ticklish sensation. A smile touched Aiden's lips. He asked if it was hungry and offered to make it something to eat. His culinary skills were limited to scrambled eggs. July ate 100 of them and was still hungry, the rumbling in its body a constant, insatiable hum. It had never been like this. He was afraid it had a terminal disease. That night, he dreamt he was on a sinking ship in a black, violent sea. The creature's arms wrapped around him, lifting him high above the waves. Its voice was a deep baritone that vibrated through his bones. Hungry. Aiden so hungry. A thick, unfamiliar tentacle pressed against his lips, probing its way into his mouth. It was the Hectocotylus, the specialized reproductive arm. He had studied the creature for years and had never seen it. He choked on seawater as he met its glowing cobalt eyes, a jolt of recognition and fear striking his heart. The other tentacles, armed with their powerful suckers, tightened around him, their grip inescapable, the pressure immense, as if they meant to pull him apart. The scent of him was intoxicating, it seemed to say. He realized with a shock that it wasn't hunger. It was lust. The suckers clamped down harder, stealing his breath. He woke up gasping, the sheets soaked with sweat. Outside, lightning split the sky. He threw back the covers to find July's tentacles coiled possessively around a very specific part of his anatomy. He felt like he'd been struck by lightning himself. His chest heaved as he pulled the creature off, chiding the idiot for its invasive habits. The dream replayed in his mind. Perhaps he'd just been celibate for too long. July rumbled again, nudging him affectionately with a tentacle. Aiden, nursing a headache, forbade it from climbing into his bed again, threatening to release it if it did. July licked away a smear of moisture from his skin with a soft coo. His donations to the local orphanage, a habit he'd kept for years, had to stop. July's appetite was draining his finances. He accepted an invitation from his old mentor to interview for a teaching position at his alma mater. The interviewer, a stranger, aggressively questioned the legitimacy of his resume. A few hours later, Leo called, offering him a job as a personal assistant to help with the research. The connection was obvious. Leo must have bribed the interviewer. He had likely discovered he was in over his head. After Aiden flatly refused, Leo's voice turned venomous, promising that Aiden would come crawling back to him. What Leo didn't know was that the dean of the biology department was Aiden's mentor. The interview had been a formality. 3 days later, Aiden was at the university for orientation. The interviewer's face was a thundercloud. He argued that despite his qualifications, Aiden's introverted personality made him unsuitable for teaching. He then issued a challenge. Aiden could have the job if he could enroll 20 students in his elective course within a month. Not wanting to cause problems for his mentor, Aiden agreed. Back home, he created an online profile and uploaded his academic history. Quickly went viral. The comments poured in. People were astounded by his resume. A Ph.D. from a top-tier university at 22, a lead scientist at a prestigious institute by 25, dozens of papers in major journals. Some were skeptical, arguing that a real top-tier academic wouldn't have time for social media. Aiden stroked July, who was perched on his shoulder, sipping a craft soda through a tiny straw. In its miniaturized state, its suckers were like dense, hard little bumps against his fingertips. Aiden's sweet, it buzzed. It was still hungry, its damp tentacle resting on his Adam's apple, conveying a constant, anxious need. The rumbling was a bottomless pit. He sighed, asking why it was still making that sound. July seemed just as confused by its own body, plaintively repeating that it was hungry. At this rate, he'd be evicted before he could ever satisfy its appetite. He pinned a comment announcing his new course at the university and started a live Q&A session. The questions were varied, and he diligently answered the few that were serious and technical. Halfway through, something felt wrong. A tremor ran through his shoulders, and a fine sheen of sweat broke out on his forehead. A strange, tingling heat spread down his spine. Out of the camera's view, several of July's tentacles had worked their way under his shirt and were exploring with intelligent, mischievous purpose. It knew exactly where he was most sensitive. The chat lit up with confused comments. Viewers wondered why the host had suddenly turned bright red. What was moving under his shirt? They joked that if he weren't so seriously discussing cellular biology, they'd think he was some kind of online performer. Before the stream, he had left July in the living room with a tablet. His capacity for mimicry was astounding. He dreaded to think what it had been watching. Just then, he heard a faint noise from the other room. Leo was stealthily searching through his files. He was in deep trouble. He couldn't make sense of most of the project data, and Director Vance had threatened to blacklist him industry-wide if he failed. He muttered to himself that it was all Aiden's fault. The fluorescent light overhead flickered and died. A damp chill filled the air. Aiden stood a few feet away, his voice cold, asking Leo what he was doing in his house. Leo, startled, tried to bluster his way through, accusing Aiden of playing games and hiding the real data. Aiden found the accusation absurd. He asked Leo, a graduate of the same university, if he had even read the files and not noticed something profoundly disturbing. Leo shrugged, saying it was just a standard life extension project. They were extracting the creature's genetic material, testing it on infants, and then harvesting the effective compounds to sell to the wealthy. He saw no issue with it. He claimed the infants were making a contribution to science. A cold dread washed over Aiden. He asked if Leo had known all along. Leo laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. He called Aiden a hypocrite, reminding him that the creature had endured thousands of incisions, bled countless vials of its blue blood, and had come close to death multiple times without Aiden ever protesting. And it had adored him through it all. Aiden's mind buzzed. His nails dug into his palms. Leo was right. The only being he had ever truly wronged was July. He still couldn't understand the depth of its affection for him. To enhance the experimental results, it was never anesthetized. It had to consciously endure the agony. By all rights, it could have escaped at any time, yet it had remained imprisoned for 3 years solely because of him. After each procedure, he would sit with it, futilely asking if it was in pain. It would always swim weakly toward him, its tentacles taking his hand, releasing a stream of cheerful bubbles. He could never hold its deep blue gaze for long. He had begun to question whether continuing his father's research had any meaning at all. He owed it everything. That was why, after submitting the evidence of the Institute's illegal activities, his first act had been to set it free. But it hadn't left. It had found him. Don't cry. A tentacle gently wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. Heard Aiden. Its voice distorted, its body rapidly expanding to its true, massive size. Tentacles shot from the shadows, moving in a blur, seizing Leo by the neck. A sickening crack of bone. Leo's face froze in terror. Another arm lifted him off the floor, his face turning a deep purple. Aiden yelled for July to stop. It paused reluctantly, complaining that the man had hurt him. Leo collapsed to the floor, drooling and gasping. He pointed a trembling finger, accusing Aiden of hiding the creature, him that he would be hunted down. He grabbed Aiden's pant leg, still lost in his delusion, begging Aiden to bring the creature back to the Institute. asking if he would abandon his own father's dream for a monster. Aiden looked down at him calmly. That, he explained, was the real reason he had quit. His father had been a brilliant pharmaceutical biologist, dedicated to using genetic science to alleviate suffering and extend healthy human life. For years, Aiden thought he was fulfilling that legacy. Then, at a private gala, he overheard Director Vance talking with a group of investors. They spoke of how Aiden, though brilliant, was too idealistic. They admitted to hiding the true nature of their work from him to keep him compliant. They laughed about how the lives of ordinary people were irrelevant. The more expensive their product, the better. For a price, they could have endless life and superior intellect, creating a new, evolved class of human, where the gap between them and the common person would be greater than that between a human and an ant. The glittering world he thought he was serving was built on a foundation of profound darkness. Beams of powerful flashlights swept across the windows. The house was surrounded. Leo laughed, a broken, manic sound, telling Aiden it was too late. Aiden acted instantly, throwing open the basement door. Leo's voice was a desperate plea from the floor. He asked why Aiden would choose a monster over him. The light from the basement silhouetted July, making it look like a mythical beast from a nightmare. Aiden ignored Leo and stepped toward the creature. He told it not to listen, that it wasn't a monster. It was his treasure. July extended a tentacle, lifting Aiden effortlessly onto its shoulder. From his new vantage point, Aiden looked down with disgust at the man on the floor. The human heart, he said, was far more monstrous than any leviathan. July raised a tentacle and gave Leo the finger, then deliberately stepped on his hand as it carried Aiden away. In a small, remote coastal village, they found a temporary refuge. July's appetite had become voracious, and its body was racked with a high fever. Aiden began to wonder if keeping it was a selfish act. After his parents died, July was the only being that had ever loved him unconditionally. His feelings for it were a tangled, complicated knot. It had become the most important thing in his life. July soaked in the cramped bathtub, rainbows dancing on the water's surface from the sunlight. After feeding it several buckets of fish, Aiden stroked its smooth, round head and teased that he couldn't afford to keep it anymore. Perhaps he should just set it free. His body went rigid, its skin instantly flushing pink. Its tentacles shot out, wrapping around him, desperate for his body heat, like a terrified pet about to be abandoned. It told him not to release it. It would become human for him. A strange emotion flickered in Aiden's chest. July guided his hand to its eighth arm, the hectocotylus, placing it greedily in his palm. It whispered that it was itching so badly. It couldn't distinguish between hunger and arousal, its expression innocent even as its actions were anything but. It asked if it was dying. Aiden closed his eyes. He told it not to be afraid, that it would be over soon. And then he helped it. These past few years, he had been so consumed by his work, he'd neglected his own needs. The few times he'd lost control had all been for July. A jolt went through him, and an inopportune fire began to burn low in his gut. He looked down. His zipper was open. July believed in reciprocity. Late at night, he would take it down to the ocean. It would bob in the waves, occasionally tossing things onto the sand for him. A conch shell, a flounder. Aiden would clap and praise it, asking if the fish was its friend. It would gurgle that it was food, for Aiden. Anything edible was food. Anything inedible was a friend. It would then promptly devour the fish, declaring its friend to be delicious. A month later, Director Vance's corporation was dismantled by federal authorities. The sunset over the ocean that evening was a spectacular blaze of color. Aiden looked at July, a decision solidifying in his heart. It was time for an ending. He rented a small boat. July sensed the shift in his mood and grew agitated. One tentacle coiled tightly around his wrist. Ignoring the ache in his chest, Aiden steered the boat far out into the deep sea. This was for the best. July tensed, its body swelling to its full, magnificent size, its coils covering the bow. Its arms moved in a desperate semaphore. Aiden, go back. He shook his head, unable to look at it. The wind whipped the sea into a frenzy, and the rain felt like needles on his skin. He told July he owed it an apology. He lifted one of its tentacles to his lips and pressed a kiss against it. Go home, he said. Don't let them catch you again. The suckers clung to him, a desperate, final grip. Cried out, begging him not to release it, saying it was just in heat. But the wind tore the words away. A rogue wave slammed into them, and the boat groaned, tilting violently before the cold, dark water swallowed him whole. In the black abyss, a hand grabbed his wrist. Lips pressed against his, and a breath of air filled his burning lungs. He opened his eyes. Above him, the storm raged. Below, there was only a profound and gentle silence. He was looking into a pair of familiar blue eyes, but they belonged to a face of impossible beauty. Dark hair drifted in the current as the man gazed at him with a look of pure devotion. Schools of fish swam past them as if paying homage to a newborn sea god. He mouthed Aiden's name, then pulled him closer, generously sharing his breath until Aiden was sated. In that moment, a memory broke loose. A childhood summer at the coast. The remote-controlled toy octopus his mother had made him. A single, small, gray octopus that had treated the drone as a friend. They had explored the reefs together. He had spent hours with it, filling his journals with observations. His mother had warned him not to interfere. He remembered the day a predator attacked it. He had dived in and saved it, bringing it home in a glass jar. Staring through the glass, he knew it recognized him. He told it stories every night, and it learned to reach out a tentacle to bid him good night. It was his unique, one-of-a-kind octopus. When it healed, he returned it to the sea, promising to come back the next summer. But he forgot. Then came the storm. An octopus had pushed past its genetic limits, waiting a decade for the boy who never returned. Its soft tentacles had dragged him to shore, its body shredded by the rocks, dying and reviving 100 times in the relentless surf until it finally got him to safety, just as another boy walked up. 5 years later, the university lecture hall was packed. After his lecture, a student raised her hand and asked about the rumor that he had been saved by a talking sea monster. Aiden's fingers curled slightly. He smiled and said it was, of course, just a myth. He'd heard the stories, but such a creature couldn't possibly exist. Disappointed sighs filled the room. Another student, blushing, asked if he was single. He laughed and told them questions unrelated to their studies were not permitted. As he left the building, a tall, curly-haired young man with striking blue-black eyes was waiting for him under the cherry blossoms. A student nearby whispered that it must be the professor's boyfriend. On the night of the release, July had managed to create a human form. He'd later confessed that he thought Aiden was rejecting him because he wasn't human, or perhaps because he had too many limbs. At first, the transformation was unstable. He'd often sprout tentacles in his sleep. Even after he mastered it, the habit persisted, especially in bed. Aiden would scold him, but July would look at him with wide, wet eyes, murmuring that his breeding season wasn't over yet. Aiden would protest that no animal was in heat year-round, but then he would look at that face, so perfectly sculpted, and his heart would beat faster. He would relent him to be gentle that he had to teach in the morning. A scar, a pale, raised line from the surgery after the storm, ran along his ribs. A paleoanthropologist once said that the first sign of civilization was a healed femur, proof that a community cared for its wounded instead of abandoning them. It was hard to imagine the sheer effort it had taken for July to save him. The guilt of having mistaken his savior still stung. July would kiss the scar and whisper that the pain Aiden felt was not 1/10 of what it had endured. And then it would demand that Aiden compensate it properly. Another year, another holiday season. Aiden and July walked home, their arms full of groceries. Under the dim lights of the faculty housing, they saw a stooped, weary figure. It was Leo. He told Aiden he knew he had been wrong. Aiden felt a surge of impatience. He asked Leo if he hadn't had enough of prison. Leo clenched his fists. He knew July was human now, but he couldn't say it without being branded a madman. He asked with a bitter voice what July had that he didn't, insisting that he had felt something from Aiden too all those years ago. July bristled, ready for a fight. Aiden stepped in front of him and told Leo coldly that the life debt he had claimed was a lie from the start. Furthermore, July was a genius and had just been accepted into his mentor's graduate program. July, he explained, was going to help him fulfill his father's original dream. Leo's face fell, and he shuffled away into the night. After he left, a stray cat they often fed rubbed against Aiden's leg. July crossed his arms, his voice laced with jealousy. He asked if the furry thing was cuter than him. Aiden looked down, a guilty smile on his face. He admitted that the fluffy ones were indeed very cute. He secretly loved burying his face in their sun-warmed fur, but he would never say that aloud. He saw a tiny orange kitten with pink paws and round eyes and felt a pang of desire to adopt it. July sensed this and went into a full-blown panic, hissing at the kitten. He pleaded with Aiden, saying he was no different from a cat, begging Aiden to pet him instead. Aiden raised an eyebrow, pointing out that cats did not ask to be petted there. He didn't get out of bed the next day. July's human form had come with certain prodigious talents. His legs were still shaking as he tried to placate the creature now curled up beside him. He soothed him, telling him he had always been his favorite. He reminded him how adorable he was as a baby, a tiny, shimmering thing in a glass jar with the softest tentacles. Flushed with praise, July couldn't suppress a grin. He kissed Aiden deeply. "Then tell me again," he murmured against his lips, "the story of how you chose me from among 1,000 others."